Welcome to the Meltdown, the show where we cheese and tease, melting away barriers one bite at a time. I am Soya the cow, and I'm your host. And today I have the wonderful pleasure to speak with Emilia ROIG. And Emilia is a social justice leader and bestseller author and a political scientist. You have written the books Why We Matter, The End of Marriage, and now the new book, Lieben, Loving. Beautiful colors and very beautiful book as well. You are an expert on non-discrimination, diversity, systemic oppressions, and intersectionality. And there's, I think, many topics we can talk about. But first of all, I would love to know what melts your heart.
So melting my heart, it can be, when the heart is melting, it can be something good and bad at the same time. And I would say, what melts my heart is vulnerability more generally, like seeing fragility and preciousness, I would say. So, it can be little animals being very cute, doing funny stuff, or being very affectionate with one another, I don't know. And it can also be, people suffering and nevertheless still surviving. I would say.
And then they are kind of close to each other in a way, no? The negative and the positive, it's not even that clear.
Yes, actually, they are the two sides of the same coin, because, you cannot have suffering if you don't have happiness, and vice versa. And, that's the same with fragility. Fragility is also the same as a strength, can be the same as strength. So it's all a matter of perspective, and of shifting, so, yeah.
Thank you so much. You speak about animals, so maybe it's the first time you're talking with a drag cow. If
it
not,
is the first time.
It is? Oh, I'm very honored then. There's something about animals, no, that is fascinating because they are usually, not always, less neurotic.
Oh, yeah.
Some exceptions. But there's something for me when I'm in the presence of animals that it's almost like it grants me the possibility to be, I'm speaking now as a human, it grants me the possibility to be an animal myself, and kind of go into this state of co-presence. And you write about animals quite a lot also in your book. What role do they play for you?
Well, they are teachers for me. I would say that observing animals gives me, it gives me an idea of what it means to be alive and in the here and now. Most of the time. So when I observe, for example, a cow in a field just grazing and spending time with her friends and just, being in here and now, not thinking about what she's going to do in the evening, or not really in her head, but more in the present, like in her body, I think it's something that is inspiring to me. And also repetition and, thinking, I think there's, being in peace with what you are, like a cow doesn't want to be anything else. Like a cow is just in the here and now, in her body, and she's being who she is.
And there is kind of conflict as an activist. It's kind of the opposite, no? It's like being in the here and now, being at peace with the state of the world, and being an activist who sees injustice. How do you navigate that? I mean, you're an activist on many different axes of oppression and.
Well, I would say I navigate this, but I integrate the acceptance part in my activism. Like if I wouldn't accept that the world is as it is right now, I think I would just lose my mind, right? So that's why it's important for me to understand. Yes, there are circumstances that I would like to change. I would like to contribute to change. I would like to contribute to transformation. But at the same time, there's a deep acceptance of knowing that we are where we need to be. That there's a grand scheme that is so much bigger than us. And at this point in time, we need to be exactly there. And the injustice, the suffering, the inequality, the oppression, it belongs to that journey, right? And I am playing a role in that journey, but I also need to accept that it is what it is, right? So I think it's a lesson in humility as well. So that's why, the humility of animals is something that really touches me. And it's in the essence, it's really about being able to just go through existence and follow a path that has been, a path that is yours, that is uniquely yours, and navigating this,
How do you see this role you described, like a role you want to play in the like struggle against these injustices? How would you describe what is your take on?
Okay, so I would say my specific role, how I see it and how I have learned to embody it, is to unveil illusions, right? So we live in a society where there is a certain narrative, a certain explanation of why the world is as it is. And this explanation keeps the status quo alive, right? And I see my role as someone who will try to show that behind this facade, there is something else.
Behind the facade.
Yeah, exactly. Behind everything that we see, there is something hidden that we cannot see. And if we go through life in this way and try to see what is hidden, then it gives us a much broader, more expansive, richer outlook on life. And it helps us as well rethink our role in this world. It helps us understand as well why certain things are as they are. And so that's how I see my role, to unveil, whenever there's a facade, to unveil it, to be like, look at what it is actually.
How did you get to this place? Like, was there a key moment or like, I mean, you have your own experience. You grew up in a family that it was mixed race, like my mother from Martinique, Jewish Algerian father. Did these experiences kind of shape the desire to change things because of your own learning and experiences, or was there a key? How did it come?
So yeah, I mean, it's of course my own biography, my own socialization, but also looking at the world. I'm embedded in this world, so it's not just my own family living in an island. It's us in society, in the world, and of course I can locate myself. I can locate myself in hierarchies of power. I can locate myself in societal structures. And when I come to this, I would say reading has helped me a lot, because there are so many people who have tried as well and who have managed to unveil the facade, the matrix, and I think this has been tremendously helpful to read these books and realize, oh, I'm looking at something from a very different angle, and I'm so glad that I get to see what is hidden. And what is actively hidden. It's not just that it's, you don't see it because it's not there. It's just that it's actively hidden. There are many things in our society, in our matrix, if we want to call it like that, or in our system, that is made to reinforce the idea that we live in a one-dimensional reality, and that this reality is completely objective and neutral. And and many people have shown that it's not the case. And so they have been very inspiring for me.
Yeah. And what are the struggles or like movements that you feel are really close to your heart?
Well, I would say very broadly, all struggles for liberation. As humans and non-humans, we live in a world where, our freedom is hampered very much. We are not unfolding our full potential as beings, as souls, but also as physical bodies. And I think it's something that has transpired, I think, from the movements that I'm following, that I'm supporting. And so all of these movements, they range from the feminist movement to the decolonial movement to the disability justice movement, or the animal liberation movement. In fact. And of course the climate justice movement. So all of these movements, they are not separate from one another. They are in essence actually the same. What they want is liberation and freedom, and actually in the end love, right? I mean, the term love is really connoted in a way that doesn't do justice to what it actually is, right? I mean, when we speak about love, we imagine romantic and little pink hearts and butterflies, and something that is romantic in essence, something that is linking two human beings. But love is a very powerful essence. It's a very powerful energy that is not only also beautiful, right? I mean, love is also the reason why we all suffer, right? Suffering is very much linked to the absence of love, to loss, to yearning, and to void. And so that's why I think all those movements, in essence, are really working towards a more loving world.
Yeah. I mean, in your new book, Loving, it's not yet out there in English.
It is not in English, no.
But in German, so everybody who speaks German, I really recommend you to read it. You speak about love in many different shapes. You speak about friendship as a form of love, love to the cosmos, love to animals, love to yourself. I mean, there's all these layers. You also share very honest parts of your own experiences, and what I think is interesting and special also as a thinker, that you really integrate your experiences, but then transcend them, whereas maybe most male writers would kind of try to separate their experience from the theories they throw out there. What was your impulse to share things like losses and grief and these parts of your life in the book?
Well, this idea, you mentioned male authors who try to separate their experience and their expertise or their theories and their thinking. Well, it's something that is very, very ingrained in the Enlightenment, and this idea of rationality and thought and science and knowledge, type of viewpoint that is considered to be universal, right? And the universal standpoint is not anybody's standpoint. The universal standpoint is a point that is coming from a certain positioning, right? And historically, white men have been representing this universal standpoint. So when a white man is saying something, you can assume that it's something that applies to the rest of the world's population, right? And in my case, I'm not granted with the same level of universalism. And many feminists and other thinkers, decolonial thinkers, have hinted at that and thinking and really explained very clearly that there's no objective, neutral standpoint, that everybody has a standpoint, like also Kant and Hegel and all of them. And so sharing my own experiences and my own viewpoint is something that has been very intuitive in my writing. If I write about love, of course I'm going to speak about the experience that I make of it. And not to say that, and I don't have the wish to represent this experience as a universal experience, but I know that some people will recognize themselves in my experience, that I'm sharing this part of my human experience, and that we're all being able to relate to that in a way to, connect our human experiences together. Because in the end, this is James Baldwin who said that. He said, I thought I was the only one to feel pain. And then I read and I realized it's not the case. I mean, it's not exactly how he said it, but the idea is really to realize that you're never alone in the experience that you make of the world. There's no single experience that can be deemed entirely individual. And so that was for me a way to connect with the people who are going to read this book. So I speak about violence, I speak about grief, I speak about loss, I speak about sexual abuse. So all these themes which are generally taboo, you don't really speak about that, especially if it happened to you. And in my case, I think it was also a way to break a culture where certain phenomena are kept private, and it enables them as well to continue to flourish, to continue to take place in full impunity and to be normalized, because those things are not talked about. So yeah, that's the reason why.
Yeah, I think I mean, for me as a reader, it really worked very well in the sense that I moved and I received frameworks at the same time, and there's something individual, but it's also collective. There's a multidimensionality in this book that speaks about my relationship to basically everything in life, and it really resonates in that regard. So thank you so much for writing it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much.
Intersectionality is a topic that is very central, I think, in your work, and also you're a keynote speaker, you teach. Maybe can you explain why you think as a framework it's so important when it comes to social justice?
Well, I think that it's very important as a framework because intersectionality tells us that everything is linked, right? It tells us that there's no single issue, that there's no there's not any form of discrimination and inequality and injustice that is separate from another. And so if we're speaking about the climate injustice, for example, if we're speaking about environmental injustice, well, it's important as well to link to the capitalist roots of it, to link as well other forms of discrimination and hierarchization, just such as racism and the patriarchy, because they are intrinsically linked with one another. And when we speak about overcoming systems of oppression. I think what's important to me is also to understand that we have to deal with three systems that are mutually reinforcing each other and dependent on each other, namely colonialism slash imperialism slash racism, which is one grand system, capitalism, and the patriarchy. And once we have this framework in mind and understand that all those three systems reinforce each other, we can see it as a monster with three heads, for example, then it becomes important to understand how they function with each other. And that if we want to weaken one without tackling the two others, we won't manage to come to a long-standing solution or a long-standing struggle.
What is the strategy that you believe in activism? You have done different things, but like, what works?
So what works? There are so many things that work, right? I won't be saying, oh, there's a strategy and I'm going to tell you this is what works. It's not
maybe what works for you.
What works for you, but also I think it's important to bring humility in the process and knowing that you don't know. We don't know what really works, right? So I think for my own position and my own actions, what has resonated to be true for me is authenticity. If I do something and I don't feel it with my heart and with, really my body, my heart, and know that I'm entirely in what I do, and I may have doubts, but I feel something like some form of truth resonating in my actions, then I know that it's right for me, right? And I've had many times in my work, in my life, in my career, where I had to shift focus. I had to shift course because I didn't feel that anymore. And I didn't conduct a study knowing, what is the clear impact? Can I prove it? No, my compass has been my gut feeling, my intuition.
Is it when you choose what you speak about also like that? I mean, now, in the last year, you have been also very vocal in the about Palestine and the war that is happening, and I mean the whole discourse, especially in Germany, the mingling between critique of Israel, anti-Semitism, etc. Do you decide, okay, this is a topic I need to speak about, or you just come? How does this work for you?
On this very specific example, what happened was that after October 7th, I realized that I was in a situation where I felt the fear being just spreading all over German society. A fear of speaking up. A fear of speaking up because the consequences of speaking up are really big, right? You lose your job, you lose your visibility, you lose your income, you lose your credibility, you get attacks. Right. And so I was in a situation where I had to decide, okay, what do I do? Because I felt like the right thing to do was to in fact speak up, especially as a Jewish person, because, our Jewishness is being instrumentalized by the state of Israel to conduct those human rights violations and this genocide. And so I had to, at some point, pose myself and be like, okay, am I ready to live with the consequences of speaking up? Is it something I'm ready to do? And the alternative was to stay silent and to not be aligned with this calling, to not be aligned with my gut feeling of, yes, I need to speak up. And so I decided to do it. And I was like, okay, I will deal with the consequences, and I know I have the resources to deal with it. And it was hard. It was hard because everything that I feared happened. There are ongoing defamation campaigns about me. Almost every week you will have an article saying that what an anti-Semite I am. Also interesting because it comes from Goyim journalists, like non-Jewish journalists here in Germany telling me or accusing me of anti-Semitism, and me and other Jewish people. So this is like the absurdity of the German discourse here in Germany when it comes to Israel and Palestine. But I had no choice, so to say, because the alternative was not something I was ready to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I myself also come from a Jewish family, and it's this tension. I mean, it's really, there is a price to pay because there is expectations from all different sides, and I really admire the loud Jewish voices in this situation for the clarity and the necessary. It's horrible to say. It's something like, since other people, or like the Israeli government claims to speak for the Jewish people of the whole world, it's important that some Jewish people say, like, you don't speak for me.
In Germany, so I think it's the worst country to live in when it comes to speaking about Palestine and anti-Semitism, because Germans are they are terrified of facing their past, facing their genocidal anti-Semitic past and present. right? So this form of obsession about fighting anti-Semitism. They're not fighting anti-Semitism. Like Germany is not fighting anti-Semitism. What it is doing is it's reinforcing it by creating a complete conflation between Zionism and Judaism, between completely conflating Israel with Jewishness, and also by pushing anti-Semitism exclusively to Arab populations and Muslim populations, and not at all looking at all the anti-Semitism all across German institutions from left to right. Germany has not been fully denazified, right? So that's something that was very specific to that cause, and I have experienced a lot of backlash for my anti-racism and feminism for sure, but it didn't have the same quality because I knew who my enemies were. And now there has been a blurring of lines, where you expected maybe some people to be on, the side of justice, to be on the side of, knowing, oh, yes, bombing children for months on end is not right, right? This is not self-defense. But yet some people on the left have continued to, defend such policies while at the same time not, saying that they might be anti-war, So there has been some blurring and some confusion, I think.
I think also it's really a climate where people are wanted to be silenced. Whenever I was stating something I received from some friends, or before they were my friends, like messages, how can you do this? You're a self-hating Jew, la la la.
Yeah.
And there is this kind of, and it makes people, no matter what their religions are or which nationalities they have, it creates really a climate of fear, which is new in that sense.
It is new, yeah.
I recognize it sometimes a little bit with my veganism, though.
Oh yeah,
Because
of course. And also
thing...
with Corona, there were also parallels, I guess. Like with any societal issue that is highly contentious,
and it's not clear-sided. It's not like the left is like this, the right is like
exactly.
this. There is. Yeah, and for as an animal rights activist or an animal liberation activist, there is also this thing of like curating my voice sometimes. I don't know if you feel that as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's do you speak your truth or you go strategic? How do you do it?
I used to go very strategic about what I had to say, and I think I have moved and shifted away from that perspective. Of course, I continue to be strategic. I have to be. If I hadn't been strategic until now, I wouldn't be able to speak, right? So I had to be strategic. But at the same time, and I see that with veganism, it's all about catering to the sensitivities of the majority, right? So as a vegan person, you need to cater to their sensitivities. You need to walk on eggshells, which is interesting, by saying, oh, no, you do as you want, oh, I know animals, claiming that animals are not inferior beings is something extremely radical in our society.
You didn't mention speciesism, by the way, before with the three-headed monster.
Oh, speciesism is definitely the three-headed monster is capitalism, racism, and the patriarchy. Speciesism is inherent to capitalism, it's inherent to the patriarchy, and it's inherent to racism.
So it's basically kind of the guts of the monster.
Exactly. Because, in order to define what deserves rights, what deserves protection, what deserves empathy, it has to be human. So the line of the human is what decides, what has access to all those great things.
And then you can push some humans out, or not human enough, or not human anymore.
So, the dehumanization of people of color, the dehumanization currently of Palestinians, for example, the dehumanization of Black people in the Congo or in all parts of Africa is something that is rooted in speciesism.
But can you integrate speciesism in the intersectionality framework? Because how do you do it?
I think it's so central. Any kind of intersectionality that rejects speciesism is, in my opinion, completely flawed.
But most people don't go there.
Most people don't go there, and so that's why in my book Why We Matter, I started with a story on speciesism. It was a story about a fly. And the idea was really to say that if our strategy as human beings is to say we're not animals, we are not animals, so we should be treated like humans, well, we're reinforcing this framework. We are reinforcing the hierarchy, right? And so in order to say we are not animals, we should be treated better, the idea is to completely smash this type of thinking and say, okay, animals do deserve the same things. They do deserve to live in peace, to not be slaughtered, to be recognized in their individuality. And so this will be a true paradigmatic shift. And saying I'm not an animal, so I shouldn't be treated like that is not shifting the system at all. It's just like shifting the filter that gives access to rights.
I would love to serve you some fondue. It's actually just down here. I found it. It's a vegan fondue.
Okay.
It's made out of cashew nuts.
Oh, nice.
Ethically sourced. It's a Swiss company. They say we make the traditions of the future.
Yes.
They do the same process of fermentation, but not with cow's milk, but with cashew milk. And what I like about this idea of melting down stuff, it's like we have something solid, and through the temperature change, it becomes liquid. And we can either reshape it, we can eat it, we can just throw it away. And what is something that you would like to melt down with your dearest heart?
Yeah, something I'd like to melt is, in fact, the hearts of people who do not feel. I think, a lot of people are really scared of feeling because feeling is hurtful. Like when you feel, you ache, you have pain.
So we need to heat it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think but also when your heart is able to feel pain, it can also feel so much more love, right? So people who are scared to feel pain also cannot feel love that much, right? So that's the idea of we all need to be made more, like made softer. I think we need more softness in this world. Like we're made to believe that strength means harshness, means to have an armor. But I think the true heroes and the
patriarchy again, no?
Yeah.
Like the hardest penis
Exactly.
is...
Yeah.
Can I invite you to squeeze that thing
Sure.
into the coquelin?
Yes, I love to do
You
that.
have to rip it open.
Yeah, I will do it.
With lots of softness.
Yes. I will need a tissue though because it's
It's full of everything. Okay,
Yes.
that's it. Yes.
Okay, I put it in there.
Yes, exactly. Let me put it on. It's so fascinating to see the different techniques. You're like rolling and...
Yeah.
Do you like fondue? As a French person?
I do. It's not my favorite dish, but I do like it.
I mean, the one I ate as a kid, I had like this belly that was like...
Yeah.
But this is actually...
I'm more a raclette person.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can give that
But
to you.
I do like fondue.
So we need to give some love to the things to make it hot.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's working.
Yeah, it is. It is. We made it. Look. There's
So much soft love. So you know fondue rules?
No. What are the rules?
Well, I mean, first of all, you
You don't put dental floss in it. This is the only rule I know.
no dental floss, but bread. And we have here some gluten-free
You know the
bread.
film Les Bronzés?
No.
That's a joke from France. Okay.
Okay. So there's some bread. You put it in. You
Oh yeah.
stir. But if you lose the bread, you have to do something terrible.
Yeah.
Can be alcohol. Can be paying alcohol for everybody else.
Okay.
It can be going naked into the snow. Maybe
Okay.
take some of this in your plate.
Okay.
You can just like do.
Yeah. That's enough. Thank you.
And then hop. We don't do that. We don't go into the snow, but we're gonna actually, I brought something. We're gonna have a shot of milk.
Okay.
And it's, no, it's actually real mother's milk.
Oh, okay.
How do you feel about it?
I drank my milk.
Yeah, you're a mother. So
I'm a mother, so I have drank my own milk, but I've never drank somebody else's milk.
So this one is from Tiziana,
Okay.
and she's a friend of mine.
Okay.
Do you want to see a picture?
Yes.
So this is Tiziana with her child.
Okay.
And I was asking like, oh, I need some mother's milk. Can anybody? And she's like, I have a lot of it in my freezer. And the daughter doesn't want to drink it anymore.
Okay.
So it's given with consent.
Okay.
It's she's a really lovely person. She has a PhD in art history on like representation of lactating Mary.
Oh, okay.
Crazy, no?
Okay, yeah.
So if you lose the bread,
I drink this. Okay.
it's a shot.
It's
if
a
you
shot.
want, I'm not gonna force any.
Yeah, of course. I won't let myself.
Of course. Okay, I hope you will enjoy. I will ask you some questions while we
Okay.
eat. When did you have your last meltdown?
This morning.
Oh, you want to talk about it?
Yes, I can talk about it,
Let's go.
I can't believe it's cashew, because it really does feel like bread, like cheese. Yeah.
It's the same process. You just need a fat liquid and then you make it happen, kind of. Huh? No, I also really like it. This morning,
Yeah. So I had a meltdown. Yeah.
a positive one or a negative one?
Maybe a negative one, I would say. Romantic issues.
Yeah, it's even if you write books about loving, it's still
Yeah, you know, like this is the intensity of life, right? I mean, if you don't have meltdowns, are you really alive?
It's. I had one when I realized that the heating thing didn't work anymore, but we found solutions. Ta-dam. I will ask you some other quick questions. You can elaborate or just go very briefly. Is change something you resist or you chase it?
Both. I have like a very conflicting relationship to change. I'm obsessed with change, right? So I sometimes resist it and at the same time want to pursue it, right? So it's this constant back and forth, and sometimes I manage to surrender to change and sometimes I don't.
It's no surprise. I mean, my questions are a bit binary at the moment, and obviously it's not going to work with you. It's like, do you find peace in nature or cities? I'm like, what the fuck is nature, and why is it cities? Yeah, well, but another one, I think it's interesting. How, on this spectrum between like justice and forgiveness, which path should we go?
They are not mutually exclusive. So, you know, about binary, I think you can have forgiveness without justice.
You can't.
You can.
You can.
You can forgive someone and not have justice. You can decide to free yourself to forgive someone and yet not attain justice. So I think forgiveness is something that is also a gift to yourself, because if you don't forgive someone, then you're going to be poisoned by the grudge, by the anger, by, you know, all those negative feelings that you continue to harbor for the person, right? So in order to free yourself, I think a true healing process means forgiveness as well at some point.
Especially now, I guess, with all these difficult justice movements where it seems like it's a mountain, or it's more, it's like a whole, it's a fortress.
Yeah.
We won't get through quickly, like maybe not in our lifetimes. Probably many things will take generations to kind of dismantle. Do you think forgiveness then is like a key to kind of stay alive and stay hopeful, to stay...
Yes, that's, and it's the most difficult thing that, you know, wronged people and people who have experienced injustice, it's the most difficult thing to do. And at the same time, you can also have justice without forgiveness, right? But justice, what is justice? That's also the question. Is justice human-made justice? Was like our justice system, the justice system that we have at our disposal is profoundly unjust, right? So justice could be something that is a bit more abstract, something that is karmic, cosmic, I don't know how we want to call it, something that, you know, goes beyond the realm of the material world. And in this case, I think forgiveness is inherent to that kind of justice.
Feel free to eat more if you like it.
Thank you.
I want you to lose the bread.
I won't lose the bread, though.
You won't lose the bread?
I know, I won't. It's firmly on my stick.
If you were a drag animal,
Yeah.
which one?
I think I'd be a spider.
Why?
I'd be a black widow. I feel a very strong connection to that insect. I have once seen myself as a black widow, and I think it's a fascinating animal that has so much power and so much, you know, the symbolism behind that spider is very profound. So I think I'd be that.
Yeah.
They eat their sexual partners, huh? Occasionally.
No, that's the thing is that, so they have been seen eating their male partners when they were in a laboratory setting, right? When they had nowhere to escape. So in order to preserve themselves, they will eat their male partners. But if they're in nature, the male partner can also escape, right? Yeah. So it's not something that they automatically do.
Yeah. Speaking about captivity, when you look at your own existence, do you feel you live in freedom, or are we so entrenched in all these systems that we are also captive?
Oh, no, we are definitely captive. And the one of the hallmark of captivity is also that a lot of people don't notice it, right? You can be captive and not realizing it. Rosa Luxemburg, but also Harriet Tubman, have said this in different allegories by saying, those who do not move do not feel their shackles. So this is Rosa Luxemburg, or Harriet Tubman have said, I could have freed many more slaves if only they had known that they were slaves. And so, yeah, I would say most of us are not free, and I am not free. I feel like I'm shedding layers and layers of captivity, I could say. But I think the only time I will be truly free is when I die.
I heard a really beautiful metaphor about death. I don't remember whose it's from or which culture as well. It's like a life as an individual existence is more like a ice cube that you put into the ocean. And the lifetime is the time it takes until it melts and becomes water.
This is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
It's
now.
so beautiful, yeah.
I was just like,
It's
the anomaly.
Yeah.
Our life is the anomaly, and
this is very beautiful. Who said this?
I don't know. My sister actually was at the reading, and the author, she quoted it, but she didn't write it. So I Googled, I researched. So if anybody knows, let me know. One last question. Do you think it's more important to speak or to listen?
It depends. Both are very important. You cannot spend a lifetime just listening, and you cannot spend a lifetime just speaking. So I think it's all about the balance and knowing, is what I have to share, there's this framework, is what I have to share true, kind, useful, then share it.
And why do you think it has to be kind?
Because kindness is everything, like a world without kindness is just not livable. So
even though the things we need to speak about are the opposite of kind,
but
we
you
speak
can do
about
it
the
with
worst
kindness.
war crimes and
but this is kind
factory farms and.
But by speaking about those very harsh themes, behind it is love and kindness, right, towards the people who are experiencing this kind of injustice, right? So being kind doesn't have to be just stroking another person or another animal. It can also be kindness can also be strong, right? So speaking about difficult topics is kind, not always, but it is a kind gesture to do, because it means that you're speaking about issues that are affecting other people, and so you want this their perspective, you want their existence to be recognized.
Where do you see yourself and your activism go in the next years?
So I'm always at the intersection of spirituality, activism, and I melt the two because I don't think they're separate.
We're melting.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't think they're really separate from one another. And I'm moving more into that direction. I see myself continuing to follow my guts. So I don't know where they're going to take me, but I will listen. I will listen to where I need to go, and I'll go there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to talk to you. Do you want to have a little shot with me before we leave, or you kind of fine?
I am fine, thank you. It's not like to be honest, human milk is so much better than cow milk to me.
It doesn't have this after.
Exactly, the human milk is sweet. The texture is better, but I'm not.
Your mother,
I've tasted it, so I've tasted it. Even my own milk, like it's not. I don't really like milk as a, so, but if I had to choose between cow milk, if you had two bottles here and I had to drink either cow milk or human milk, I would take the human milk.
Now you give me the good idea. No, I don't want to bring cow's milk. I mean, unless the cow is like, it's really hard for a cow to consent for. Thank you so much. Maybe one last thing.
Yeah.
Would you like to moo with me?
Okay.
It's very easy. You just have to kind of breathe in and then close your lips and then we moo. I love to moo as a way to kind of release stuck emotions.
It's like the om after the yoga.
It's exactly like this, and but it's also different because there is an urgency to it, because cows usually they communicate with these very low frequency sounds. They only moo when it's like a quick, intense communication. It's not their standard language. And so there's something which is a bit like, there's a vehemence to it. I think the om is...
There's something that I have in mind as well, is that I have a lot of haters on the internet who would love for that to happen so that they can cut it and just like do a sort of collage or whatever it is with me just mooing. You know?
The haters would love it.
Oh yes, and so that's why I'm wondering if this is something I want to give
it
them.
to them.
No,
Or
exactly.
No, you don't want to give it to
Maybe I
them.
don't
I
want to give
respect
it
that
to
one.
them,
No, it's good to.
But we can do it off camera. I'd be happy to do it.
I'm excited to do an off-camera moving session. No, maybe that's also something just to close. Like you're exposed as a woman of color with opinions and do not please everybody. How do you protect yourself from all this so that you can continue doing your activism and experiencing this life?
Well, it's not always easy. And I think when it happens, it does impact me. So I can't say I have an armor and I don't feel anything. I feel so deeply. I feel deeply everything. So of course I'm going to feel that as well. But what I tell myself in the end is like, it's okay. It's not that bad in the end. Like all of this is not so important. And I try to keep my compass of what is really important and what really matters. And this doesn't matter. Those voices don't matter. So
thanks for taking the time to protect yourself and for voicing it. And I know so many people who love your work, who will be excited to hear this conversation. And if you're at home, hi to everybody. Thanks for listening, for watching.
Thanks a lot. It was a great conversation. Thanks you.
Thanks for coming, Emilia, and all the best for everything comes up.
Thanks a lot.